Welcome back to another episode from the Optimal Body Podcast. I'm DocJen.
And I'm Dr. Dom.
And today we're talking about optimizing your knee health. This is something that a lot of people unfortunately deal with: knee pain. Why is it cracking? Why is it popping? Let's talk about what you can do to help your knee health. Now, we've done a lot of these optimization episodes, so if you want anything about your shoulder, your low back, your neck, like we've done it all. So definitely hit subscribe and look back at those previous episodes so that you understand how to optimize your entire body. We're trying to give you just little bits of exercises that you can do. So don't forget those. Also, there's tons of other videos with exercises to help support your entire body. And if you have more specifics of what you need help with, comment below. This is how we know what we need to bring you, what education, and how we can continue to help.
We're back to the body optimization series.
Your favorite.
But we're on the knee. In our past 300 plus episodes, we've done so many episodes on other knee related topics, being meniscus pain, IT band syndrome, knee tendonitis, Osgood-Schlatter, chondromalacia, meniscus surgery specifically, patellar tracking, ACL injuries or rehab, pes anserine bursitis, Baker's cyst, knee osteoarthritis, crunchy knees, and crepitus. We'll try getting all of those linked up down in the show notes or in the description of the video if you're watching on YouTube. And if any of those are important to you, go listen to those.
And if there's any that we've missed, you're like, I have this diagnosis and you haven't talked about it. It might be because it's so specific that not a lot of people would know about that. But if there is something we've left off, please let us know. We want to hit it all in terms of what is the research currently saying, what are exercises that can help support you, or what do you need to just ask your doctor about. One of the biggest things that we develop, a lot of knee tension, pressure, arthritis is because we stop moving well above and below the knee. So our hips get really tight, which causes more pressure on your knee. Your ankle gets really tight. It causes more pressure into your knee. Our knee is a place that should have a little bit more stability. So if we're lacking mobility above and below, it could be a reason that we're having a little bit more knee pain and tension.
Yeah, we should have very mobile ankles and hips, and when we're limited in those areas, our knee will definitely compensate and take the brunt of some of the forces that go across. Mm-hmm. I've had injuries in my knees in my 20s and coming into my 30s, so I really need to be focusing on some of these things as I get later in life so that I'm not somebody who's sitting there complaining, oh, I've got bone-on-bone arthritis. Yeah. And same with your mom. She's asked us, oh, but my doctor says I should go and have an x-ray. But even your mom knows that'll just show that I have arthritis, won't it?
I know that I have it. Yeah.
She's like, I know I have arthritis. I know that I have no cartilage left in my knees. And so then she comes to us and says, what can I do?
Yes. And she gets strong. And that's one of the most important things. And some of the exercises that we'll talk about. But, that is also something that people get scared to work on, is that single leg support. So that's where we start to lack in the strength needed to support that knee, because we start to lack that single leg balance, control, and stability and strength that is needed into that leg. And I'm not just talking about squats and deadlifts, right? Single leg activities. We walk, we run. Every time we take a step, we're on a single leg. We go upstairs, we go downstairs, climbing heels, whatever it may be. We need that single leg strength and stability. When we start to lack that, that could be a big reason that we start to have pain.
Yeah, we are upright beings, but more than that, we stand on one leg a lot more than we think. Like when people say, oh, why do we need to work on single leg exercises? Because no, you don't see people just standing around on a single leg, but every time you walk, people don't realize that whenever we walk, we're spending a little bit of time in this single leg phase of that gait. And when we start to lose the ability to control that, that's where we start to put undue forces through all of our joints, really, hips, knees, and ankles. The knee just seems to be someone that takes a lot of the brunt of that force because of restrictions elsewhere.
I mean, I heard this in CrossFit. I heard this in a lot of workout classes. Just always make sure when you're squatting, you can feel the weight into your heels, almost like you can lift your toes up. Like that was the cue that I heard a lot of the times. And especially in Pilates, it was never let your knee pass your toe. And this wasn't just...
It was even in PT offices for the longest time.
Yes.
Like, if you have pain, oh, you should never let your knees pass your toes.
And I think this is still something that a lot of people believe, is that we shouldn't have our knee pass our toe, or else we're going to cause too much strain and stress at the knee. But this couldn't be furthest from the truth, because the reality is every time I go up and down particularly, my knee has to pass my toe. It has to pass my toe in order to get downstairs. So if we're never training that knee to comfortably go past the toe, well, then of course, when we start to do it repetitively throughout the day, going up and down stairs or going down a hill, whatever it may be, we're all of a sudden going to start to develop knee pain because our knee is not strong in that range of motion. If we lack the ability to control a range of motion, it could lead to ending up in pain. So this is something that I hope remains old school. You can tell your friends and family members, I'm saying it is old school. We need to reset our mind around what it means to be strong within our knees, and that means to allow our knees to go over our toe and get strong in that position.
Similar to the hip episode, another thing that we notice with a lot of people is just this quad dominance. People are so forward dominant in our whole body. We also see that in the quads, where people use more of this squat type pattern with knees going forward, like we're saying, rather than incorporating more of a hinge type pattern to be able to squat or sit down. And it puts a lot of pressure through the knees, especially when it's combined with restrictions at the ankles and the hips.
It's not bad to have quad dominant squats. We want that. However, we want it with the control. Do we have a balance of the quads with the glutes, right? And so that's where it becomes an issue. If you have so much tightness in those quads, it's just putting so much pressure on your knees because you haven't balanced it out with other parts of the body.
Yeah, I should have said that. A quad dominant squat is not bad in itself.
Yes.
It's just bad when that's all you do, and it's the repetitiveness and overloading and overtraining essentially.
Exactly. And so what can you do to start to continue to have healthy knees? And one of the things I like to say, whether you have knee pain or tension at all, is just taking off that pressure on your knees to do it all. And sometimes that is just working on getting a little bit more mobility through your quads, through your calves, through your hamstrings. And that could be with feel-good methods as well, with passive stretching or
a little foam rolling.
A foam rolling or taking a Theragun or whatever it may be. You can do things that feel good for those areas, but it helps to reduce the tension coming into that knee.
And then if we want to get a little more specific with some of the mobility techniques that we're using, we mentioned ankle, foot and ankle, and the hip as two areas that we will start to notice restrictions that then we compensate and our knee suffers. So for the ankle, what can we do to improve dorsiflexion specifically, which we just mentioned, stretching the calf. So even doing any sort of wall calf stretch, getting on a step and doing kind of some deficit heel raises on both feet so that you can start to build strength through extra dorsiflexion or increased dorsiflexion range of motion.
Which, explain what dorsiflexion is.
Dorsiflexion is your foot coming up towards your shin, and a lot of people start to find limitations in that. I myself, having very high arches, but doing a progressive heel raise on a step can really start to load through that range of motion and make it pretty functional. And then a hip 90-90, which we mentioned during the hip optimization episode, because it's one of our favorites to be able to work on that hip rotation, which is one place I feel like almost everyone out there is going to have limitations in either internal or external rotation of the hip.
Yeah, I mean, our hips are our access point. So think about the areas above and below our low back and our knees.
Yeah.
If we're not having good moving hips, it can really put a lot of tension and pressure back into those two areas above and below. So mobility in those areas, so huge. Now we move into having a little bit more strength control around our knee. And one of the things that we love to do is like a 4-way step up. So if you have just like a little stool, a step stool in your house, this is a great way to work on it. If I just put the stool in front of me and I think of a forward step up. So I'm thinking you want to lean the chest forward a little bit, hip goes back. And if I push down through my heel to stand, I get a lot of glute activation. So it's a great way to start to build those hips, build those glutes without putting too much tension on your knee because you lean your chest forward a little bit more. And then you have a lateral step down. So now it's that ability to kind of control your hips at like a level surface as you're stepping down without letting your foot that's hanging off the stool kind of lead the way. So without having that lack of control in the pelvis, in the trunk, you kind of go down together and then you can cross that leg. Now we get a little more inner thigh activation, which our inner thighs, our adductors go down to our knees and need to be strong as well. Yeah. And we get that crossing over. And then the last one, forward step down. So getting the kind of like doing like a heel tap and getting your heel to reach forward. This is now going to get your knee. Now you're a little bit more upright in your chest. You're going to get your knee to start to load over your toe. which gets you into good ankle range of motion as well, and builds that strength and the tolerance of your knee to be able to take that load forward over your toe.
One of the greatest predictors of keeping your knee pain down, even if you're someone who has osteoarthritis, is having strong muscle groups that cross the knee. So I don't think enough can be said about strength training, keeping all the muscles strong across the knee, so specifically doing exercises that load as you go knees over toes, like a heels elevated goblet squat or something like that, could be very good at starting to progress into taking larger and larger loads across the knee and doing so comfortably.
Yeah, I mean, even if you just start with sitting onto a bench and then standing up, having that support and that target to kind of sit down toward. And that's what I do with my mom a lot, to encourage her to squat down a little bit more when we're working on exercising. So there are ways that you can modify and still continue to get strong and feel good, especially as we age. We need that strength. So I think it's just so important. And of course, we have a knee plan on Gen Health that walks you through all of this, from the mobility aspect around the knee, calming muscles down around the knee to take tension off. Even if you don't feel like you have tension on the knee, again, this is something that I think we all just need to be aware of, and then building into that single leg stability, support, and ultimately strengthening around that knee.
Thanks for joining us for another episode from the Optimal Body Podcast. If we didn't get everything, or if you still have questions about knee health, please comment down below. Also, check out the links to all the episodes that we've previously done on specific diagnoses, or if you have a question on a different diagnosis, we need to hear from you so we know what YouTube videos we can make in the future. And of course, we'll see you next time.